What's the hubbub? Copium. In today's episode of Insider's Only Report to Cosmic Book News, a segment of the internet has confidently declared that Zack Snyder is triumphantly returning to DC, while James Gunn has been quietly escorted out the studio back door. The evidence for this dramatic regime change consists of hashtags, Instagram pictures, and an article from only one site that gets all the scoops, which begins with hearing from insiders, though no insiders were actually named. No trade publications have reported it, and no studio statements have been issued. There is no press release, but apparently minor details like verified facts aren't necessary when a victory parade is already underway. According to several extremely confident social media threads, a huge Saudi-backed deal has supposedly ended the DCU some time ago and removed James Gunn from leadership, which restored the SnyderVerse and perhaps even has rewritten cinematic history. Curiously, none of this has appeared in The Hollywood Reporter, Variety, or any outlet that tends to verify information before publishing it. That hasn't stopped celebratory fan edits from flooding timelines, complete with dramatic music and slow-motion Justice League clips. One viral post triumphantly declared, "It's done! The SnyderVerse wins." You'll be seeing a lot of YouTube channels creating outcomes that haven't even happened off of hypothetical scenarios. From the following update, we are discussing the Warner Brothers Discovery's board is considering whether to reopen sales talks with Paramount Skydance following its amended bid for the company, Bloomberg reported, which is citing unnamed sources. While unnamed, they at least have a reputation of reporting news and not just clickbait. Both Paramount and Netflix have made bids, which would include its film studio and HBO Max streaming service. This is the first time Warner Brothers is considering whether Paramount's offer may lead to a better deal or prompt Netflix to up its offer. According to, again, Bloomberg, does this mean a bombshell one signature away for the purpose of a Restore Snyderverse happened? Well, let's dig into the logic and reasoning of that idea. No matter who ultimately buys Warner Brothers Discovery, the DC reboot being overseen by James Gunn is very likely to continue for years because it is structured as a long-term corporate strategy rather than a short-term creative experiment. Gunn and Peter Safran were hired to run DC Studios with a multi-year plan designed to rebuild DC into a stable, interconnected franchise. When companies acquire large media assets, they typically honor executive contracts and ongoing franchise roadmaps because abruptly canceling them would trigger costly buyouts, production shutdowns, and investor instability. Restarting DC yet again would also damage brand confidence, especially after previous creative shifts over the past decade. The new DC universe is not a single film gamble, but a structured slate beginning with Superman and expanding into multiple films and series under the banner, right? Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. This model mirrors the long-term franchise approach that made Marvel Studios successful, where early patience allowed the universe to gain momentum. The most practical and financially sound decision for any new owner would be to allow Gunn's DCU several years to develop. Stability is cheaper than chaos, and long-term franchise growth is more valuable than another reboot. Gunn publicly outlined Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters, beginning with Superman, a relaunch and reboot of Verse film, The Brave and the Bold, a Batman movie separate from Matt Reeves' Verse, Lanterns, a true detective-type series following the Green Lantern heroes, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. This is structured like the early days of the Marvel Studios. Model under Kevin Feige Studios. Don't invest in a Chapter 1 unless they plan multiple chapters. If a buyer came in, they would almost certainly wait to see if the first few projects succeed. Avoid restarting DC yet again. DC has already suffered from creative resets. Another reset would hurt the brand further. The source cited: trust the process. Meanwhile, in the real world, no official announcement has been made. No credible publication has confirmed leadership changes. No press release exists, and the current DC slate remains exactly as it was. But why rely on measurable reality when hope in the form of clickbait, titles, and thumbnails feels so exciting? What makes the current wave of certainty especially familiar is that it follows a pattern. When Netflix began scaling back and canceling several Zack Snyder-related projects, the narrative quickly shifted. Instead of accepting corporate decisions as business realities, some corners of the fandom pivoted to a new theory. If one studio won't restore the Snyderverse, perhaps another will. Soon, the hopeful speculation moved from streaming deals to full-scale studio acquisitions, with claims that Paramount Global should or secretly would buy Warner Brothers outright and use the hostile takeover to reinstate Snyder's DC vision. The scale of the solution expanded in direct proportion to the lack of evidence. Think about the stupidity a moment. Full acquisitions are somehow dependent on Zack Snyder projects. The idea that a fired filmmaker would be the driving force behind a corporate takeover assumes that boardrooms operate like Twitter threads. It imagines executives presenting slides that read, "Projected ROI, restore the Snyderverse." In reality, mergers and acquisitions involve debt structures, shareholder votes, regulatory approval, and strategic portfolio alignment. They are about libraries, streaming platforms, sports rights, IP valuation, and global market positioning, not fan edits set to dramatic music. There's also a fundamental misunderstanding at play about leverage. When a director exits a franchise, whether voluntarily or not, that typically signals the studio has chosen a new creative direction. Reversing that course requires internal decision-making, not an outside corporation swooping in like a superhero to fix continuity. The notion that an entirely separate company would spend billions specifically to reinstate one filmmaker suggests a level of influence that simply doesn't align with how corporate governance works. We've seen this pattern before. When projects at Netflix were scaled back or cancelled, the narrative didn't end, it escalated. If one studio wouldn't continue the vision, then perhaps another would. If that didn't materialize, then maybe a full acquisition was imminent. If no evidence supported that either, then surely the trades were hiding something. Each time reality failed to cooperate, the scale of the hypothetical solution expanded. Meanwhile, in the real world, no official announcements have been made, no credible publications have confirmed leadership changes, and no acquisition has been reported as being motivated by restoring a prior DC era. The current slate remains intact, corporate structures remain unchanged, and the only thing that has been aggressively restored is speculation. Fandom passion can be loud, organized, and persistent, but it is not a substitute for financial strategy, shareholder responsibility, or verified reporting. Until something concrete happens, an SEC filing, a trade exclusive, a studio press release, the idea that a studio would be bought primarily to undo a past creative decision remains less breaking news and more elaborate coping mechanism. It has evolved or devolved from, "I heard something big is coming," to "it's basically confirmed," to "why is mainstream media hiding this?" The more likely explanation is not a vast conspiracy, but rather that there is simply nothing to report. Fandom passion is powerful, and online campaigns have made noise before. However, declaring a corporate regime change based on vibes trending hashtags, and a lightly viewed live stream titled Insane DC Leak may be slightly premature. Until an actual studio statement drops, the only thing that's been restored is collective imagination. Stay tuned, or better yet, wait for sources. With that said, let's check in on the actual active DCU. Here's a quick roundup courtesy of DC Updates. Supergirl is reportedly much darker and more serious in tone than Superman, with human trafficking and violence taking center stage. James Gunn's Superman was the 8th highest grossing Hollywood movie of 2025. Always take test screening reports with a rumor grain of salt, but
you fell for the oldest trick in the book! What a goof! What's with you, man?
David Corenswet's Superman will reportedly feature in at least 3 scenes in Supergirl. Jason Momoa's Lobo reportedly has a substantial role in Supergirl, crucial to the ending. Deadline has named Supergirl one of their most anticipated films of 2026. Recent Supergirl test screening reactions reportedly praise the film's cinematography, with audiences saying it looks significantly better than Superman. According to Daniel RPK, another test screening for Supergirl has taken place, and reactions reportedly say it's very good. Supergirl is being described as a bold mix of Superman, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Logan, Man of Steel, and The Last of Us elements blended together. The Puppy Bowl outperformed the Kid Rock halftime show, more than doubling its viewership with 12.8 million viewers. Ouch, Snyder Bros, it is another L. Zack Snyder's Justice League and Batman v Superman composer Junkie XL will score Supergirl. Grant Morrison criticized James Gunn's Superman, saying they want to see Superman fight back more instead of constantly getting beaten up. Gunn made specific choices that I think were made for dramatic reasons that were understandable. In order to make him seem more relatable, he had him getting beaten up an awful lot. I want to see him stop getting beaten up and fight back. This last one by Grant Morrison made me think, for fun, what could an Infinite Crisis movie look like? Here is a wild idea. What if it was just a Superman vs. Superman DCU and DCEU crossover event? They could show the differences of Cavill versus Corenswet's Superman, highlighting why some tactics work better for each.
Come on, be careful!
Both could learn and be a better Superman from each other.
Come on.
Could fans consider this a unifying story, or would Snyder Bros cry for more and want to overtake the DCU? The sides are divided, but Snyder and Gunn personally are not. The only way to hash it out is discussing the reality and ideas. Pretending another reality exists will leave you disappointed, as nothing changes that way. Snyder Bros won't believe this, but it's the truth. I supported Release the Snyder Cut back in the day. There was no other verse plan at that point. I didn't want DC movies to die out like Westerns.
Get 3 coffins ready.
However, the end of the SnyderVerse DCEU, and yes, it's all one inarguable verse because it sprang from Zack's vision, and his setup originally had the last 5 years struggled to even hit a 300 million worldwide average per movie. Its demise was inevitable. So when a studio lead in James Gunn said, "Let's reboot this with a new vision," crazy me, I decided to give it a chance and see what happens. The first official movie and only one released under Gunn as CEO, Superman. It did over 600 million worldwide. In the downward trending era of the superhero movie genre, it did the impossible. It beat every Marvel superhero movie release in 2025. All 3 Marvel movies failed to hit 600 million. Snyder Bros want to pretend Superman failed? No, but the DCEU became a flop verse. The DCU is 1 movie in, and it succeeded. The Hubbub does civil debate, albeit snarky between sides at times. Just remember, any channels who are trying to limit free speech are showing they're on shaky ground. Take harsh critics and his ban threats. Sure, I get it if actual hardcore insults are thrown at the channel owner, but opinions? The difference with him and other Restore SnyderVerse channels is they are thin-skinned. If you aren't repeating brainwashed slogans, they crash out. When ideologies are extreme, the outcome is toxic. If they aren't doing topic research to create coherent rebuttals, that's on them. It's not my fault if you shell out lazy content and get owned. Overall, I keep reactions and rebuttals to the subject matter. Agree or disagree, please take a moment to subscribe and tap the notification bell to see when new content drops. You're invited to engage in our civil debate community. So, what do you guys think of Restore SnyderVerse efforts? Is it continued hope or cringe cope? How about the recent DC updates such as Grant Morrison's comments? Do you like the Infinite Crisis Superman-specific movie as a crossover idea? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash the like button, like a Snyder bro smashes down that third piece of cake after their second dinner.
It's like you live by the cake, you die by the cake, you know? No.
Kidding. With that, it's today's Hubbub. No SnyderVerse, no problem. Wallets open, look up, not back, but take your eyes to the skies and see Superman and the active Gunn DCU soar. Hope you enjoyed today's edition. Quick note if you saw the news on James Van Der Beek, rest in peace, as he seemed a kind soul. Thank you for watching and take care of yourselves and others.